let's begin with the React app of the same one. So let's quickly go to our Visual Studio Code, and we have already made a copy of the HTML. So let's open that. And here we are going to start working on our React app. Now, before we start, we will like to create a file where we are going to write a React code. So let's create that. So script react.js. So this is where we are going to create our React code. Now let's include that and the CDN. So I have already created a code snippet for that. So let's say React dev, and that will add React framework, the React DOM and Babel, which is required for JSX. And we have added the script tag, which we have created specifically for writing our React code. And the only thing important about this script tag is this type attribute. So it should be text / Babel. So this is required so that we can use JSX in our code. So once that is done, let's save this and run this on live server. Okay, so right now this is the state. Let's minimize this. So right now everything is visible. Let's go to our React app and let's add a little bit of starter code. So I have another code snippet for that, which basically creates a React DOM and attaches it to an element with an ID of root. So we have to create that now. So let's go to our HTML and let's take this entire thing. We have this div over here. So let's give an ID of, let's say, root over here. Okay, and that's it. So this is going to be our root div. Okay, so let's save that. And now if I save this also, it should render hello world. Perfect. So now that this shows that our React app is working, right? So let's move on to the next part. Now what we want is we want to extract all this code that is there to inside JSX. So we will remove this from here and put it inside the JSX. So let's copy this and paste it over here. So now the JSX cannot have multiple parent elements. So we will add another div just so that the entire app can be enclosed within our one div. Okay, so now once this is done, now obviously it is not going to work because we have to rename all the class to class name, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay, so let's do that. Let's save it. And now if there are any errors, we have to resolve that. Like for example, this input tag doesn't have a closing tag, right? So let's close that and let's see, is there anything else left? So again, this image tag doesn't have a closing tag, so we have to close that, and that should give us our UI. Now still there will be few errors. That is because of the SVG element, which will be having some attribute issues. So let's go and figure out what are those issues. So there is a warning, value is provided. So let's look at that. So I have an input text with a value. So for the time being, I will just remove this. Okay, we will add it later. Then we have null, that is fine. Invalid. Okay, so this is the SVG issue. So let's open up the SVG. So this we need to remove. So let's find out if there is. So only this two places this issue is there. So we will just sorry, I just removed too much. Okay, so yeah, this much, and that should be replaced by line cap. Perfect. So that solved that problem. Next, we also have, I think, stroke width. Yeah, so we will remove that, and I think that should solve the problem. Now there seems to be few more issues called fill rule and clip rule. So let's see. Yeah, fill rule is there, so we will remove that, and there should be one more clip rule. Yeah, perfect. So that solves all the problems, and we have now converted our HTML to JSX. So now let's begin. So once that is done, now the first things that we did in the Vue.js one, also we created a step state, right? So we already have a state variable set, and here I have added the state to be step. Now here we are going to render certain parts of the app only based on what step we are currently on, right? So this part, the first part, is going to be there always because that is the header, that is this part, nationality predictor. The remaining three divs, it renders based on which step currently we are on, right? So we can create multiple modules for our app, or we can simply do it all at one place. Okay, it completely depends on you. For bigger apps, it makes sense to create into different components and then render it based on whichever component is active, right? So it completely depends on you. So for the time being, I am just going to say step if the state dot step is equal to 1, then I render the particular element, right? Now I can do it like this. That means I can create another component called step 1, um, or I can simply do this. I can remove everything and I can add a bracket, close that bracket, and then I can just return null and close it. Okay, so this will render only the particular element that is going to work. Okay, so similarly I can do the same thing for the other two divs. So this will be step 2, and here I will close this and null. Okay, similarly I will do for step 3, and here at the end I will close it. Perfect. So now you can see we are at the stage where we can decide which specific section will be shown at which step. Okay, so once that is done, let's handle how the input is going to be reflected. Okay, so for that what we can do is we can have an on change event on the input, right? So for that, first we will, let's take a state variable called name, and let's let it be blank for the time being, and over here we will have an event handler. So first let's make that handler. So handle change, so get the state and set the value. Okay, and I will store it. Now instead of this, I am more interested in name property, and I will set the name to be e.target.value. Perfect. Then this will update our state. Now I just have to call this function whenever there is a change. Okay, so I will just say on click, and I will say this dot handle change. Okay, so whenever there is a it's this is not on click, this is on change. Whenever there is a change event happening, this should update the state. Okay, so that is done. Now we have to run the predictor query, right? So let's work on that. So we will just say on click. So when I click on this, it should run an event. Now I don't want to redo the entire code again. So since we have already written the predict country code, so we will use simply that. So we will copy this entire code. In fact, we will copy the entire code from here and come to our React app, and let's create a function called predict country, and let's paste this code first. Okay, and yeah, so we will paste this code, and then let's work on how to handle this. Okay, so first step is to change the state. Okay, so we will remove this line and we will say this dot set state, and here we will just change the step. Okay, so I will change the step, then I will do a fetch request as normal, but I will get the data from state.name. Okay, so I got the name, then I will do a JSON. This is perfect. Then I will get the country, and here I will set a variable. So I am using country probability. Yeah, so let's create a variable. So we are having a variable country, right? So we will do one thing. So we will create another state called, let's say, country, which is an object which has a name, which has a flag, which has a probability, and it also has a code. Okay, so these are the few things this country object will have, right? So let's see how this is going to be populated. So first of all, I will initialize a country object. So let's create a country object. Okay, so let's first do one thing. Let's create a country variable. So let's say country, which is going to be an empty object, right? Uh, yeah, so let's let that be the thing. Then we will simply use country dot, this first one will be code. So I will get the code. Then I also want the country probability. So I will get country probability. So I have got code, I have got the probability. Now the remaining two things I will need API request. So I will do the request. I will, let me see. Yeah, so that is perfect. Oh, instead of country, I should say country dot code. Okay, so yeah, so I got the country dot code, and I'm getting the country details. Then I'm finding out this, and then I'm getting the country dot name. Perfect. Then I'm also getting country dot flag. Perfect. So now my country object is complete. So now I can do one thing first. I will set the state. So this dot set state, and here I will just update the country and the state. Okay, that's it. Perfect. So this should be my result. Okay, so that's it. This is my predict country function. So this was easy because we have already written the code in the Vue.js. We have just reused that code, and that's it. So the on click event is going to run this particular function. So let's try it out. I think there is some error. Let's find out what is the error. Console. Yeah, so we are using await, but we have not used a sync on this function. So let's do that. So just before this, let's add a sync, and now it should work. Perfect. So now let's try this out. And it looks like it is working, but obviously it is not working because it is not showing me the actual result. It is just showing me the static result, right? Just to prove, if I do Tom, it will still show me Shibu, right? That means it is going till step 3. Now the only thing left is to show the result in step 3, right? So let's go to step 3, and here we just have to update a few things. So first is this is going to be this dot state dot country dot name. Sorry, I think this is name. So state name, right? And this is going to be the country. So state dot country dot name. So that is done. Now we want the image that is at this stage. So we will replace this, and instead of this we will just say this dot state dot country dot flag. So that will give me the flag probably and the probability, right? So for the probability I will simply do this. Probability. Perfect. So that should give me everything. Let's run it and see if that works. Let's say Tom, let's run it, and there you go. So my app has started working. Right now the only thing left is this close button, so we have to change that. Now instead of this div, we will just replace it with a button, and we will close this with the button tag, and then we will have a reset function like the other one. So let's do a reset. So let's create a restart. I think we have created a restart function. So let's make a restart function. Okay, so this is going to be our restart function. Now this restart function, uh, let's make it a arrow function, right? And here these are the things we have to do. So this we cannot do it like this. Instead we have to do it using the state. So using the state we will create the step to 1, then the name will be resetted, then the country will be resetted back to null, the name will be blank, flag will be blank, probability of 0, and code will be 0. Perfect. And that will be our state. So let's remove everything, and that's it. So this will be our restart function, and let's give that over here on this close button. So on click we will be running this restart. Perfect. So let's try it out, the final app. I suppose this should work now. Let's try my name first, And there you go, my result, 100% probability I am from India. So if I close this, it goes back. Let's say Mary, it is Mary from Ghana. Cool. So our app is working both in Vue.js and in React. I hope you found this video interesting, and see you in the next video. Thank you.